to him, started to go look at his tape at Western Michigan a lot more, and you saw a lot that you like to see in a receiver, a guy that is one of the best route runners in this draft. Some people are like, oh, well, he's only from Western Michigan, so I don't know, competition and lack of competition and but in this draft, just like any other draft, you can find these gems, whether it's from a small school or a big school, but if you dominate where you play, you deserve a shot in the NFL. Sky Moore is going to get that shot in this draft, and he's going to make a team very happy.
Yeah, for some reason, Cody, I don't know. There was a cutout with the video. Don't know. We didn't really lose much here, but it did cut out from everybody else. So I just want to apologize to everybody if you guys did lose a video feed.
He said, and I'm back. That was
because it did cut out. Yeah, so I don't think it was on anybody else's end. I think it was on our end. I'm not sure what's going on, but we are still going. And we are looking at the top 10 wide receivers here. If you missed it here, there's number 10 in George Pickens and Sky Moore here at number 9. Joe, let's take a look now for your number 8 here. There you go.
I can't even read it.
You can't even read it? Oh, you can't read
Christian
it?
Watkins? Is that who that is?
Watson. Yes.
Christian Watson's from North Dakota State?
Yeah, North Dakota State. Right.
Jesus
sorry.
Christ, that was terrible.
Well, sorry. I had to open up the chat box here. Is that better for you?
That's better.
There you
go. Christian Watkins from North Dakota State, a kid that kind of opened up people's eyes on him at the combine, what he was able to run, and then people were like, wow, this kid is a giant of a receiver. He's, very tall, 6'3", 6'4" type of frame, and he can run a sub 4.4. That's pretty insane. So people started to pay attention to him. Now, the only problem is with his tape is the fact that I didn't see enough of him receiving the ball. North Dakota State is known more for their running game than they are their passing game. I would have liked to see a little bit more. So going into the NFL, we have to see if he can run the full route tree. We got to see if he can, make all the catches and see how good of a route runner he can be at the next level. So that's why he's a little lower on my list than most. But at 8, it's Christian Watson from North Dakota State.
All right, here we go.
Number 7, Treylon Burks from Arkansas. This dude gets so much flack for not being the fast guy. But Treylon Burks can run really good routes, and that's what's going to get you separation at the next level. He tested at 4.5 on the 40, which is average in the NFL. So he's not going to break away from anybody, in the long run. But what he can do is a lot of different things. He was used at Arkansas as a running back and a wide receiver. So I know everyone's going to automatically think, oh, is it anything like Deebo Samuel? He's similar. He's not the same guy. But when you look at his physique, he looks like a tank that plays wide receiver. Runs great routes, has good hands. Not the best hands, but has decent hands. And if he goes to a team that wants to kind of do some trick plays with him as a running back, as a receiver in the slot possibly, this guy could really open up, some whoop ass on the defense. So Treylon Burks, I really like him. He's one of my favorite players. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he can do, but we're going to find out on Sundays.
All right, here we go. Now moving on, we got number 6.
Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. This is another wide receiver in my top 10 that doesn't get enough credit. Sometimes he's not even in the top 10 conversation, but Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, this is a guy that I wish Desmond Ridder linked up with a lot more often because he is such a gifted athlete. He's not only a big wide receiver, but he is super fast. He ran a 4.4. He can run all the different routes. He has phenomenal hands. And that's why I have him this high on my top 10 list, is I really believe that Alec Pierce in the next level, you're going to look, he's very similar to, he's almost like a faster Cooper Kupp in a sense. A guy that you can utilize him in any, in the slot, outside, inside. A guy that's going to do a lot for the offense, and he's kind of not even really being talked about right now.
All right, next up in your top 10 list here for your wide receivers.
Drake London from USC. Yes, I am not that high on Drake London, as you can see. He is my number 5 wide receiver, and there's a reason for it, because he tested at he only ran a 4.5 on his 40. It's not slow, but it's not fast either. It's an average time that everybody runs in the NFL. So he had an issue in college with separation. He does run good routes. However, if you have a speedy defense, they're going to be able to catch up with him and make up that gap that they lost. So Drake London, he relied heavily on the contested catch and was the number one in contested catches in college football. But that's not going to get you anywhere in the NFL. You got to learn how to create that separation. And if whatever team he goes to, if the coaches can kind of work on him, on utilizing his body more and creating that space, even if the corner is there or safety or linebacker or whoever, that's going to be better for him. I see Drake London as a glorified slot receiver, but as far as putting him on the outside, he can play there, but I just don't think – I think because of his issues with getting separation, I think outside corners are going to be all over him.
All right, moving on to your number 4.
Jahan Dotson from Penn State, one of the most elusive wide receivers in this draft, a guy that has one of the best route running capabilities there is. The only question for Jahan Dotson was he was a little bit banged up in college. Also, from time to time, he would kind of tend to maybe let that ball slip out of his hands, but he's made some phenomenal contested catches as well. So for me, even though he's number 4 on my list, I think the world of this dude. I think he could be that very elite outside receiver for whoever drafts him. Jahan Dotson from Penn State, a guy that can do a lot of things well, and he's really fast. So, and when you get him the ball in his hands in the open field, good luck tackling him.
All right, here we go. Next up for your number 3.
Chris Alabi from Ohio State. A lot of people have this kid in their top 5. Chris Olave, blazing speed. I mean, he is so fast. Sub 4.3, very fast dude. And the only question I would have about him is people kind of questioned, like, well, can he get off the bump and run coverage? I've seen enough. A guy that can kind of just throw your hands over, and before you know it, he's 10 yards behind you or more. Guy that's very fast. He's going to take the roof off of a defense, and he's going to be that big-time deep threat. I hope to God that whatever team drafts him, they don't utilize him as just a deep threat. Because what's going to make Chris Olave a lot more dangerous is when you utilize him in every facet of the route tree. So short, intermediate, and deep. That's where he's going to, pay huge dividends for whatever team drafts him. But Chris Olave from Ohio State, very big-time speedster and one of the best in this class.
All right, that brings up your number 2 wide receivers here.
Jameson Williams from Alabama. I got Listen, if it wasn't for his injury, Jameson Williams would have been my number 1 easy. Runs a 4.4. He's fast. He runs all the routes. He makes difficult catches. He has breakaway speed in the open. He's hard to get to. He has great moves. He does everything really, really well. And he is definitely that consummate number 1 type of wide receiver that you need on your team to carry you into the playoffs. Jameson Williams, he is going to slide in this draft just based off his injury from last season, which I think is kind of crazy. We've seen time and time again athletes come back from their injury, then all of a sudden they're starters for their team and they help produce. Jameson Williams, he's going to be an absolute steal for whoever.
All right, that leads you up to your number 1 now, wide receiver.
Number 1, I got Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. Yes, another Ohio State receiver. Garrett Wilson, here's the thing with Garrett Wilson is I think he's the most polished wide receiver coming out in this class. A guy that is one of the most precision route runners in this class. A guy that has phenomenal hands. He's made very good contested throws. He plays bigger than what he is, and he also the big question mark for him coming into this draft was, is he fast enough? Well, he ran a 4.4 at his pro day and combine, so that question was answered pretty quickly. Garrett Wilson is my number 1. And there you have it for my top 10.
All right, there you go. Let's take a look at it real quick again. Just here it is, the 10 right here, top wide receivers on Joe's list for this particular draft, 2022 NFL draft. And, of course, he's got some honorable mentions that just did not make the cut, but they're worth mentioning. Here we go. Let's take a look at them, Joe.
Honorable mentions, I mean, Justin Ross from Clemson, he's a kid that he also is coming back from an injury. And honestly, if Justin Ross got a chance to play this past season, then he might have been in this top 5 discussion. That's how talented he is. John Mechie, he's seen more of a slot receiver, but again, a guy that can run routes, he can catch the football, and has that little bit of an extra boost in speed. Jalen Tolbert, Taekwon Thornton, who kind of blew up the combine with his extremely fast 40 at Baylor. My question for Taekwon Thornton is, does he have the consistent hands he needs at the next level? Other than that, he's a blazer. And Calvin Austin from Memphis was a very he was an unknown almost leading up to the combine. But here he is, Calvin Austin. He runs great routes. He's extremely fast. He's very shifty and quick. And I really like what he could produce for a team and possibly be even better than where he ends up getting selected.
All right, that's right. There you go. There's your top wide receivers, plus the honorable mentions. Before we get to the next couple of lists, we're going to tell you about our friends at Mohawk Honda on Freeman's Ridge Road, Joe. It's springtime. It's the perfect time to get top dollar for your trade-in right now. The Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer is still going on. So that's right. Whatever Kelley Blue Book says your car's worth, whatever it is, they'll cut you a check right there on the spot that day, or you can trade it in on another slightly used and loved or brand new vehicle at Mohawk Honda. You know, I was just on their Facebook page today, and they just got a new shipment of more vehicles there, Joe. So now the inventory is even bigger now than it was here. The lot full of inventory. So they continue to roll in there, Mohawk Honda on Freeman's Bridge Road. If you haven't yet, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and their social media platforms too to stay updated on their newest vehicles. As they roll in, like I said, I was on their Facebook, and boom, I saw the picture of it rolling in. They had a video of the truck rolling in. So inventory daily. And by the way, also while you're there, you can find out more about this year's pet adoption clinic they're doing. It's scheduled for April 24th, so learn more about that too if you're looking to do, and adopt a pet. While you're there, checking out a car. You got, looking at some other pets that are available and stuff like that. You might go home with a dog too as well, or something like that, to put inside that car and get dog hair all over the back seat already. But whatever suits your fancy, Mohawk Honda's going to do whatever they can to take care of you, to get you in the car that you want, the car that you deserve, at the price that you want every month too as well. Talk to their sales and leasing consultants. They'll do whatever they can to help you out, because you know why? Mohawk Honda, they always go out of their way to please you. That's right, Joe.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing Joe's top 10 lists here for the 2022 NFL Draft. He's got 2 more lists here. We're going to take a look at his tight ends now here.
Before we get to that, Cody commented, he said, we have very different wide receiver rankings. We'll be very curious how a lot of these guys pan out. It's always, a curiosity of how these guys pan out. Listen, I missed big time on, who was it? Mims for the Jets.
Yeah.
I thought the world of him. I thought he was going to end up being a great number 1 for the Jets. And so far, no bueno. So completely missed on him. But he also says, calling it now, Calvin Austin could end up being one of the biggest wide receiver steals in the entire draft. And I have to agree with you, Cody. I love Calvin Austin. And don't get me wrong, just because the way the top 10 list is, or honorable mentions or whatever, it's not saying that they're not good players. It's just extremely hard to rank these guys because they're so different from each other, a lot of them.
Absolutely.
But we're off to tight ends.
Here we go. Yeah, I already sneak peeked it here, but here, if you didn't check it out, here it is here. Number 10.
Derek Dees from San Jose State. This is definitely one of those receiving threats at tight end. A kid that definitely needs more further development, but if you're going to try to use him as a blocker, I don't suggest you do. I definitely think you need to keep him as a receiving threat at tight end and create opportunities over the middle of the football field and watch him run after the catch.
All right, here, Joe. Next up at number 9.
Cade, I don't even know how you pronounce his last name, but Oten is what I'm going to say, from Washington. Cade is more of your prototypical tight end. He can block, he can go out and receive, but he's not super fast, but he can get the job done. Has good hands, can block for you, an inline blocker. But Cade Oten, he cracks the number 9 spot there because he can do a lot of things well.
All right. Moving right along. Number 8.
This is another threat at tight end. Isaiah Likely, who's likely to get drafted from Coastal Carolina. You see what I did there. Blazing fast speed for a tight end. He looks more like a wide receiver, and there's a reason for that. He converted from wide receiver to play tight end and was an absolute blazer at Coastal Carolina. Tore up defenses left and right. Has everything that you would like to see at tight end. Good size, has great hands, but man, oh man, he's hard to stay with and cover. So look for a team that's going to utilize his talents in the open field, get him the football, and see what he can do afterwards. At number 7, we got Jalen Weidermeier from Texas A&M. This is a very big specimen of a tight end. A guy who is still a little bit raw, needs to be developed further, doesn't have the most consistent hands, but if you can get him locked in and ready for the NFL, this dude has a lot to offer. He can block very well. He needs to work on his route running a little bit, but man, when you get the ball in his hands, he is a ferocious bulldog, dude. He is looking for contact. He wants to run through people all day. So, Jalen Weidermeier is definitely going to be one of these prospects that a team is going to kind of fall in love with his physique and want to draft him, but pay attention that you're going to have to work with him going forward. Number 6, I got Daniel Bellinger from San Diego State. Daniel Bellinger, another good tight end that can do a lot of things well. He can block very well. He can receive for you. And he's kind of like an underrated prospect, too. I got him a little higher on my list because he does everything so much better than, I believe, than Cade Otton. So that's why he kind of is a little bit higher, a little bit more polished at tight end. But San Diego State, Daniel Bellinger is at number 6. And number 5, this is one of my favorite tight ends coming out, Jelani Woods from Virginia. Again, kind of like Jalen Weidermeier in the sense where he needs to be further developed, but not as much. And when you get a finished product in Jelani Woods, I'm looking at him as being one of these dominant tight ends that can do everything extremely well. He loves to block. He loves to go out there and make some big-time plays in the red zone. He's made contested catches. He's broken tackles in the open field, and he's a little faster than what he looks like. He looks like a big, dominating type of person, and he's got speed to go with it. So with that physicality and his catching and blocking ability, he's at my number 5 spot, and I hope to get him. I want him right now. I want to draft that kid. That kid's amazing. Has a lot of potential. Going into number 4, from Maryland, we got Ikky Akwanwu. That's right, Okonkwo. From Maryland. This is a dude that if you're looking at one of the more premier type of receiving threats, he's the more polished tight end. He has halfway decent size. He's a little shorter than your typical tight end, but man, he's not a blocker. Let's get that right out of the way. But again, he's very polished in his route running. He runs very physical. And looking to always score as soon as the ball gets in his hands. So he has the capability to learn how to block better, but he's just not quite there yet. But man, is he a big time receiving threat? I compare Chig to more like a Noah Fant type. Mm-hmm. So from Maryland, that's my guy, Chig. Number 3, from Ohio State, I got Jeremy Ruckert. Jeremy Ruckert's kind of going a little bit under the radar so far with some of these these big time, scouts that are out there, and even like some of the big wigs at NFL Network and ESPN, the draft analysts there. Jeremy Ruckert's higher on my list because I think he's so underrated to the point where like this is one of the more polished tight ends, but didn't get utilized a lot, and I feel like that's the reason why people don't have him as high. At Ohio State, they didn't throw to the tight end, on a large amount, but at the same time. He blocks very well. He's got great size at tight end, and he's deceptively fast for his size. So, Jeremy Ruckert, I think the world of him. Number 3 on my top 10 list. I really like this kid. Somebody's going to get a steal with him.
All right, Cody says, I know nothing at all about the tight ends this year, if I'm being honest. Positions that was so thin this season that I just haven't gotten motivated to do research on. That's fine, but that's what we have Joe here for, because now you take a look at these guys, you look at his list, and then maybe you start watching some of the video, and then you can form your own opinion too. Again,
right.
Look at what you like, and then we'll see where it falls at draft night. Who knows? Even everybody thinks they have a game plan going into the draft, and then you still don't know. I mean, it's funny because I heard somebody today, and they're talking about, maybe trades, people that are going to trade up, some out, and the way the value is, I think, with some of whether it be quarterbacks, dropping off into the second round, some of the depth on some other positions. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of movement. There's probably going to be some trades that are going to, surprise us here and there because there always is. But who knows? Maybe not a lot of movement this year.
When you have teams right now that have multiple first-round picks, like the Jets and the Eagles and teams like that, if they were smart, I would utilize one of those picks at least and trade down.
Yeah, that's if anything.
And get multiple picks for that one. Because this is the type of draft where you need more picks in the middle to late rounds than you want early on. If any team is drafting, unlike past drafts where we already know there's 2 or 3 guys that are just amazing. They're just amazing prospects. We need to get that guy. You know what I mean? Those type of prospects aren't in this draft. They are great players in this draft. You know what I mean? Because everybody's going to point their finger at Aiden Hutchinson being one of the best defensive ends coming out from Michigan, or Thibodeau coming from Oregon, and he's one of these pass rushers, but some people have question marks about him. Those guys are great. They're going to be great players, but they're not seen as elite yet. You know what I mean? So unless you're a team, if you're a team that has a lot of needs, I highly suggest you try like hell to trade down and multiply those picks. But I don't. Again, Jim, and that's the hard part. Is it's great that you want to trade down, but you have to have a partner to trade with.
Right.
And if there's no partner, we've seen it happen before where you heard rumors of X team wanting to trade down. They're open for business. Come on, call us. And nobody calls because they're not interested. And then they're stuck there and you have to take a pick. So let's see what happens in this draft. I don't expect a whole lot of movement except for, like I mentioned, those teams that have multiple picks, and maybe they can kind of work the draft up and down that way.
And Jerry Jones said that he's open to even trading up into it if he has to.
He would be.
So he would be
because he's the splash man.
So,
He likes to make a big splash no matter what.
Yeah, so let's see if it's one of those teams are the Dallas Cowboys here. All right, so moving on to your number 2 now in this list for tight ends here. Who do you got here?
So we have Greg Dolcich from UCLA. I have him as my number 1 because, again, the tight end position, depending on the offense, you have your receiving threats, you have your inline blockers, and then you have a guy that's like a hybrid like Jeremy Ruckert is. A guy that can block and go out for a pass. So Greg Dolcich from UCLA, he's kind of like a guy that you look at him, he's a very big type of tight end, very, very big in stature, but he did everything very well to the point where people were questioning how athletic is he. And he answered all those questions at the combine, having a great long jump, having a great vertical jump, making all the catches, and looked very good moving around than you would expect. So Greg Dolcich, I like him as one of my more solid tight ends out there. He ends up coming in at number 2. And
right, so that brings up your number 1.
Trey McBride from Colorado State. Hands down, you're going to see Trey McBride's name on the top of a lot of lists. It's because he might not be the biggest guy in terms of height, but, man, he is rock solid. A guy that can do a lot of things well. He's a better blocker than he gets credit for. He's an extremely big-time receiving threat and has phenomenal hands. So Trey McBride, it's almost unanimous across a lot of top 10 boards that Trey's on top. But some team is going to take him first, that's for sure.
All right, here we go. Let's take another peek here at the top 10 in tight ends here. Again, Cody, if you want to take a look at these guys, here it is. Screenshot it, and you can look at these guys again yourself and see if you agree here with Joe. All right, and of course, he's got some honorable mentions that did not make the list, but we're in contention here. So who you got here, Joe?
So I got Josh Wiley from Cincinnati, Charlie Kolar from Iowa State, Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin, Julia Billingsley from Alabama, who's underrated in my book. I think he's another one of those guys that can do both, and Austin Allen from Nebraska. But Julia Billingsley, I pick him out of that five, the list of five there, is because I think he's a guy that can do a lot of different things. Now, he's a little bit raw still needs to be worked up a little bit, developed a little bit further. But Jaleel Billingsley can block for you. And then with his massive frame, he's going to be someone that you're going to want to put a man on at least.
All right, Joe. Before we get into our next list, why don't you tell everybody about our friends at Johnstone Supply here? Because I know we had a nice day the last couple days here for once. I mean, there's still rained a little bit here and there,
Finally.
but, it dried up, and the sun came out, and it was closer to 70 degrees now. It's just enough time to get us teased, so then, next week it's probably going to be crappy. But I'm really feeling the spring and the summer. Come on, let's bring it on, and let's talk about our friends at Johnstone Supply.
Yeah, it's April now, and it's never too late to start thinking about how to stay cool for this upcoming summer. Call now for pre-summer pricing on John Goodman Central Air Conditioners, or if you're looking to go with the Fujitsu mini splits, they've got them too.
Boom.
And if you're a homeowner that's mulling your options and want to get hooked up with a local contractor, call Johnstone Supply, and they've got you covered. And just a reminder to everybody out there, they have the lowest prices on Milwaukee tools guaranteed. That's right, guaranteed. Listen, if you find a cheaper price elsewhere, bring that ad in, bring that whatever it is, a coupon, and they're going to match it for you. The best quality products at unbeatable prices. Stop into 6th Avenue in Troy, New York to learn more, or call Johnstone Supply, 518-272-5922. That's 518-272-5922, and they'll help you out with whatever you need.
Absolutely. Johnstone Supply and Troy are good people here. And I got to contact them, too. I got a couple other things moving forward into after the summer. Probably moving in for the winter. Absolutely. Get my furnace checked out and stuff before the winter comes again later on. But I'm super excited to talk to those guys, especially Tom. He's a lot of fun. All right, here we go. Joe's top 10 list. We're doing it here. We have one more list for him, and then we'll roll up out of here. Any more questions from you guys, too, as well? We love it. He's going to have the defense next week, so it's going to be a whole lot of fun doing that. And then the draft, it's coming, Joe. We're getting excited. Still figuring out what we're going to do, but it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
April 28th, baby.
Yeah, baby. Here it comes. All right, here we go. So now Joe's top 10 and an offensive lineman here in the NFL draft here.
Yeah, this isn't just offensive tackles or guards or centers. This is everybody. So
everybody.
The best of the offensive line. Number 10, I got Cam Jurgens from Nebraska. What was kind of surprising to me about Cam is that I didn't really know much about him in my early process of looking at these linemen, but he kind of blew up for me at the combine. Very more athletic than you would expect from a guy, him playing center at Nebraska. But wow, he was good at moving around, very athletic, did well in all the drills, and a guy that ran faster than I thought he would too. So look at a guy that can not only block very well, run and pass, but also a guy that can probably pull out of that center position for teams that are looking for that.
Absolutely. We got a comment here from Cody. He says about the screenshot when I told him about the tight ends. He goes, I just did. You'll see me doing some research on lunch tomorrow. He said, I'll do my homework so I'm ready to compare notes next week. Absolutely. Well, we just said we got the defense next week coming up. So do your homework and rejoin us here next week on that one. So we'll see if your list compares close to what Joe has here. Everybody else out there, too. Mike Tack and all you guys, too. If you haven't yet, make sure you guys make your list here and compare them with us, too. And don't forget, also, if you guys are listening to us on Spotify and Google Play and all that stuff, we appreciate you guys checking us out. And make sure you guys post a rating, too. That helps us out and helps the media group, too, and get better numbers so we can figure out who we can reach and how best we can serve you guys out there. All right, so now moving on now to your number 9 here for offensive linemen. Who do you got?
Offensive tackle from Central Michigan, Bernard Raymond. This guy is a little raw, but, man, you cannot teach size. This guy's gigantic. And not only is he gigantic, but he's athletic and strong. Needs work on his technique, needs work on his base and staying anchored low to the ground. But if you can work and get these things all sorted out, Bernard Raymond could easily become a starting caliber and maybe even a all-pro someday at offensive tackle. Has all the attributes that you're looking for, size, strength. He's got athleticism. He's got quick feet. You just got to work in further development as a technician. Number 8.
That's a huge bitch.
I have Daniel Fellaille from Minnesota. This is a very – I said Bernard Raymond was big. Daniel Fellaille is a extremely huge man.
That's a huge bitch.
He's 6'8", everybody, 6'8", 360. If you can picture that. Gigantic guy, but listen, if you're going to draft him, if you're a zone blocking scheme type of team, you're not going to draft this kid. This guy is going to be a power blocking, going to maul you, going to massacre you, just like that soundbite said, and he's going to punish you from start to finish. Daniel Fellaille is one of my favorite offensive linemen coming out. Again, just like Bernard, he needs a little bit more refinement, but if you're looking to plug him in at the power blocking scheme, you're not going to be disappointed.
It is pointless to resist, my son.
All right, moving on to number 7.
One of the best offensive linemen in this draft, Kenyon Greene from Texas A&M. He's seen as a guard coming into the next level, and he played that position in college. Kenyon Greene, very athletic, very strong, a guy that does not let up until the whistle's blown. Kenyon Greene, very polished type of blocker. He got better since he's been at Texas A&M. He's gotten better every year. He's been the starter there. And what's to say that he can't be one of the best guards in the NFL one day?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Next up here on your list for the top offensive linemen here. Now, that's tackles, guards, everybody here. So here we go. We're in the top. We got 6 here. Here we go. Trevor Penning. Northern Iowa.
Yeah, Northern Iowa. Offensive tackle, a very mean type of player. If you like your guys that are going to look to hurt people, this is your guy because he does not let up. Another punishing type of offensive lineman that looks to put you in the ground. Loves to embarrass people. We saw it at the Senior Bowl where he was literally throwing defensive ends around like they were rag dolls. Trevor Penning, I love a guy with a mean streak. This is him to a T. He does need a little bit refinement in the pass blocking game, but nonetheless, a very nice prospect to work with and definitely going to end up being a starter somewhere.
All right, here now we've got your top 5 here. Cracking the top 5 for your offensive linemen.
Zion Johnson from Boston College. This dude is amazing. He's very versatile. He can play any guard spot, any tackle spot. For Boston College, he did that very, very well and often. Zion Johnson is one of the most gifted offensive linemen out there. Like, there's not really a position for him. He can play guard or tackle, so do what you want with him. You know what I mean? And he'll be glad to do it. But he's one of my more versatile offensive lineman that is a lot more polished than most.
All right, that leads you to number 4.
Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa. Tyler reminds me of like a Jason Kelsey type of center. And if you got that kind of a Pro Bowl, physique and the talent right there, it's going to be hard to. If you're a team that needs center, this is the guy that you need to target. Is basically what I'm getting at. He's very similar in size to Jason Kelsey, and looks like a mirror image of him when you watch his tape. So, great blocker, pass and run, can pull, can do everything. He snaps extremely well, and he has a quarterback mindset for the offensive line. So that's what you really want in a center. That is going to be the number 1 center taken off the board. I'll be shocked if it isn't. But Tyler Linderbaum is at my number 4 spot from Iowa.
All right, here, getting down to the nitty-gritty here of this list.
I got Charles Cross from Mississippi State. Charles Cross could very easily be higher on this list. But Charles Cross, to me, I see him as one of the best offensive tackles coming out. Very polished, does everything extremely well, does not get off balance, stays balanced, has great punch, and locks you up. Once he gets his hands on you, you're not going nowhere. So a guy that can do everything well in terms of the run and pass blocking game, but also a guy with size and strength and all that. So Charles Cross, very polished type of offensive lineman. Whoever gets him has definitely got a day one starter automatically.
All righty, here we go. Now we're down here to the top two. Top two, who's it going to be? Here we go.
I got Evan Neal from Alabama. Some people are conflicted with this number 1 and number 2 spot. But before we announce the number 1 guy, I'll say this. I see Evan Neal and the number 1 guy as more like 1A, 1B. Because you can make your case to either one. Now, both of them are going to be seen as being left tackles, but I feel like they're versatile enough to where they could play either side. Wow. Evan Neal, a monster of a man, a guy that can do everything well. One thing that I have a little bit of a question about him is I wonder at the next level, because he didn't really get challenged at Alabama, I don't think. I think he relied a lot on his physical talents, because he was so dominating as a big offensive lineman, and has really good feet to where I don't think he was really challenged at all. So I wonder what that's going to look like at the next level when you're going to have to deal with a lot of fast pass rushers and so forth. And then what
we got here, Cody chimes in. He says, if the Giants don't end up with Neal or Akwanwu with the 5th pick, I will be pretty aggravated, but I guess I could also deal with Charles Cross.
Yes. Charles Cross, you can't be upset. If you end up with Charles Cross, you're going to be just fine. That is a guy where a lot of people, in NFL circles are talking about Charles Cross more now than they were, and he's getting into that conversation of maybe he's a little bit better. Maybe Charles Cross might end up leapfrogging an Evan Neal or maybe Akwanwu. So that's something to watch. And that's my number 1 guy is Ikky Akwanwu from North Carolina State. I loved everything about his game. Very tenacious, guy with a lot of power. Very good at attacking at the point in terms of those fast pass rushers and shrugging them off and throwing them into the dirt. This guy is a very polished offensive lineman as well. I really like him a little bit more than Evan Neal, even though Evan Neal has that kind of monstrous size of a lineman that you like. But I just like Ikky a little bit more for me. All
right, there you go. There's his top offensive lineman. Let's take a look at it one more time so you guys can look at it. And this is, again, the offensive linemen. So you got centers, guards, tackles, everybody here together. So, again, some of these guys might go before others here. He's not saying this is the way they're going to be drafted, but here you go, all together of offensive linemen. There's your list. And, of course, he has some honorable mentions for this one, too, that just did not make the cut but are also worth mentioning.
I'll tell you, this position right here, offensive line, is very deep. So, I mean, I struggled. Running backs I struggled with because a lot of them, it's like kind of like a flavor type thing. It's like, what do you like? Do you like a power back? Do you like a guy that's real shifty and quick? Do you like a guy with speed? Do you like a guy that just catches the ball? So just like offensive linemen, there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of offensive line talent to be drafted in this class. So if you're an offensive line needy team, this is the class to select one. First of all, I got Darian Canard from Kentucky. I really did like his tape. He just missed my top 10, but he could very easily be argued back into it. Abraham Lucas from Washington State, a guy that's going to need a little bit of development. He's a little tiny bit raw, but you got to love his upside. Alec Lindstrom, another center from Boston College, really good. He has the argument of being second or third in the list for centers. Tyler Smith is a raw prospect, but a lot of people love his athleticism, his size at Tulsa. And then Jamari Salyer from Georgia. A guard that I think is going to be one of those guys that ends up getting selected. He's going to probably most likely be a day one starter, but a very powerful guard from Georgia. And there you have for my honorable mentions. Very, very difficult. All these all these positions to rank and stuff are very difficult. Again, only did a top 5 for quarterbacks because honestly, like after 5, it's just not worth it for me. Those guys don't even deserve to be drafted, period. We'll just put it that way.
All right, so real quick, we're just going to buzz through. So everybody that's watching this visually is going to have a good treat, but everybody that's listening, you're going to miss out absolutely. So make sure you go to Facebook or YouTube, hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well, and then you guys can see it visually.
Yeah, so all our podcasters out there, you can also follow us at anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you tag along on this ride. And if you want to be a little bit more interactive, why don't you hop over on YouTube or Facebook, whichever one you like to do, and search us up Football Know on the show.
Absolutely. Here you go. So let's take a look at the quarterbacks quick again. We'll run through them all here. There's your quarterbacks, the top 5 for Joe. All right, next up, running backs here. Running backs here, the top 10. A good mix of everybody here. There's your wide receivers. And your tight ends. And then to round out, we just finished up with the offensive lineman here. So, again, overall, absolutely. So, again, whatever, like Joe said, it depends on what you kind of like and what your flavor might be for a lot of these different guys. Who do you expect your team to grab? I know Cody talked about the Giants possibly grabbing some of these guys the offensive linemen there. It's all about needs and trying to get value. Everybody talks about value in the draft, and that means different things to different people out there too. A lot of people value certain guys. Like you had different values with Cody on other guys too.
Wide receivers,
wide receivers, stuff like that. So when we had a conversation, I forget who it was last week. I think it was maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I think the guy from Twitch about do you go for needs or do you go for like value or best available? And that's the battle you kind of fight in the draft always. But I think overall it's going to be probably best available because you don't want to reach on your needs. And again, a lot of that stuff reaching though, that's almost determined years after if whether it was a reach or not. So
and that's the thing is a lot of people will say, oh well, they reached on that player. Now in terms of reaching, somebody might have him ranked as a 3rd round pick, but you took him in the bottom of the 1st round. Maybe that team doesn't believe that. That team's philosophy, they're like, no, we were hoping that he was here and he's here, we're going to take him. Some people might see it as a reach, but other people might be like, oh, well, he is a decent player. But what's to say, like, and here's the other thing that nobody takes criticism if they make a pick and they're like, oh, it was a reach, and then they end up panning out. You know what I'm saying? Then they're oh, no, that was a great pick. No, so to me, there's no such thing as reaches. Like, we always utilize that term. You know what I mean? We're like, that guy got picked when? Are you kidding me? You could have got him in the middle round. You know what I mean? We all react that way as fans. We all say it. We all utilize that term. But in actuality, there's no such thing as a reach because wherever a team selects a prospect, that's where they believed they should take him. So we don't get to know all the aspects and details and information like these NFL teams do. So what we might think is a reach, maybe on their big board, this guy is a lot higher than we think he should be. So you got to let the coaches and the scouts out there, they kind of make their debates and how they set up their board. And then once it's done, then it's kind of like, all right, well, you would hope that your team drafts based off best available. You would hope. It doesn't always happen. And I would give some advice to say if you are running a team and let's just say, for example, you're sitting in a spot and the guys that you have at pick 22, right, are not there. None of the guys that you wanted are at pick 22. What do? Well, don't pick based off need right there because teams have done that before and it's backfired a lot. How about you try to trade out then? If your guys aren't there that you were hoping were there, trade out of that spot and then kind of collect yourself and maybe you'll get the next grouping that you're looking for. So if you can, obviously if you're stuck there, then you just got to take whatever you can. And I would say even though you might need a tackle, a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, whatever it is, linebacker, don't take a position if you think like, well, we might be able to get him in the next round. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Take the even if you have an offensive line. You know what I mean? Let's just say if you have a pretty solid offensive line, there's a guy that slid there and you did not expect, but you really need receiver. You really need corner. But none of those positions are there on your chart are valuable to take. Take the lineman. Because if you can't trade out, just take the lineman. You become richer in that position then.
Right.
And that way, most likely you don't miss that way.
Absolutely. Hey, you could always use another lineman. You know, the way I look at it.
You never have enough.
The
Never have
Giants
enough.
have tried multiple years. So,
Well, to be fair, before Dave Gettleman, and even now with Dave Gettleman, they've neglected that position grouping for quite some time.
right.
So now you're hoping, as a Giants fan, we know everybody. This is Jim, the Giants fan. If you
Cody,
don't,
the Giants
if
fan
you
out
don't,
there, too.
if you don't already know, but you know, you're hoping that going forward that they're going to help address that position and get it stronger.
And now Joe Shane again. We hope that they can turn the
New
page
regime,
here. You
New
know what I
GM.
mean? Yep.
New
It's getting
regime.
kind of scary though again too, when they started
don't
to
know.
get a lot of more, former Buffalo Bills and stuff like that, and how much like what Gettleman would do with the Carolina Panthers, but still they had a lot of success with Buffalo these past couple seasons here. That it was different with Gettleman with Carolina there too. So I mean, there's difference there.
But
so
you
we
gotta-
can only hope.
Right, but you
can only
gotta expect that. Just like anywhere there is a new regime, you gotta expect them to bring some, because of the
Right,
relationships and ties that they have
And help-
with players or coaches or front office staff. They're going to bring in a few guys from their past
Right,
regime.
to help sell everything too as well, to get it going. And I like what they've done with Tyra Taylor too, because again, this is where it's going to rest on the shoulders of Daniel Jones, see what he could do here this season with some more weapons, and hopefully they stay healthy, and then they can also gather some offensive linemen. And then if not, then you've got Tyra Taylor right there, who has looked
right.
good in previous years, just recently just couldn't really stay healthy.
Right, and that's the thing, is I would say Daniel Jones beware, because if Tyra Taylor looks so good in that offense that it's like hard to deny. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you might be rocking Tyra Taylor as your starter. It's a possibility.
Absolutely. Before we get out of here, I want to make some announcements for you guys, for local guys out there. If you haven't noticed this yet, I'm seeing a big billboard on I-90. The Albany Empire are going to kick off their home season here. Their season coming up, and their first home game is Saturday, April 23rd. Godzilla Media will be hosting the pregame show starting at 3:30 p.m. live from the MVP Arena, and you can watch it on Godzilla Media's YouTube channel as well, just the same one that we broadcast from. Buy your tickets today at albanyempirenal.com. And then also, too, Godzilla Media will be live this year for the NFL Draft at Iron's Edge at Boston Spa Country Club. Join Godzilla Media live in location starting at 6:30 and throughout the entire first round. Enjoy drink specials, food, football fans, and more Thursday,
food.
April 28th. For more information on upcoming draft night broadcasts, continue to watch shows like ours and check out GodzillaMedia.com. Unfortunately, we won't be able to make it that night. I know my wife has to work later, too, so I won't be able to make the show. But I'll try and check it out, too, on our YouTube page, though, too. That's what's great about it. You just check them out. If you can't be there in spirit and hang out and watch the guys and support the guys at Godzilla Media. Absolutely. Again, Joe's doing his list. The draft's coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, he will have his defensive men.
We're hoping.
We're hoping. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So who will we go? Because there's a lot of people talking about the defensemen here.
Yeah.
Whether it be corners,
Right.
like I said, the pass rushers and stuff like that, edge rusher. Who does he rank above some other people? There's a lot of debate on who's going to go first. What the Jacksonville Jaguars might even grab. Will they go O-line? Will they go defense? We don't know, but you know what? Also, before that Wednesday before the NFL draft, we're going to have our mock draft as well.
draft.
So you
First
will
round mock
see
draft.
what we actually think.
That's right, first round mock draft, and it's going to be fun because, unlike any other draft in the past, I feel like this one is going to be the most difficult to try to decipher, because, just like we mentioned, like you should pick best available. Well, technically, there's a lot of best availables here, and it might get real tricky on which one you should take, which position, which player from each position. That's going to be the fun debate that we have. And we're going to be here to disclose that for you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's it for us tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.